Alrighty, howdy fellow Shadowverse. Today we're looking at a little damage talent setup from the Wizk master himself. I've got my talent build out labeled Wizk damage because that's just a quote that you've been maybe hearing me say from the beginning of time. When you think of Wizk, you think of damage, and if you guys don't know who Wizk is because you've never played WoW before, this is like your second day on Shadowverse, definitely give him a follow over at twitch.tv/WizkX. Very excellent Shadowverse gameplay, especially if you're trying to learn how to deal damage. But yeah, not only one of the best Shadow Priest in the game, but one of the best players in the game. So whenever there's a good player that's doing something that you're not doing, try to take notice of that. So we're going to take a look at his build and ultimately see if it does damage. And looking at the details for this game, I'd say that it did pretty good for the Dark Magician. There are situations where I feel like maybe these talents aren't the best, but let's just talk about him a little bit to understand why he's taking them and how it produces such large differences in DPS over time. So the first thing you'll see here is that he's actually using Psychic Link, which I've been kind of shitting on all expansions, saying that it's kind of bad. But now that Mind Blast got buffed, and we're pretty much locked in Dark Ascension every game now, we don't do a lot of Void Form, it feels like Psychic Link is going to have a little bit of a higher value. He's also still taking the Shadow Word Death talents with the more AoE potential here. No Inescapable Torment, which kind of made me sad, but honestly playing without it did not really feel much different. It felt like I was still able to do really solid damage without that, and it also kind of makes it less stressful. Like, you feel like you don't have to necessarily Mind Blast and Death as often while you have that Mind Bender out, and you can kind of focus your priorities on other spells, which, you know, Mind Spike can hit extremely hard. We're hitting 58k Mind Spikes and, you know, 40k Mind Blast. So check out the damage here, and you can see that there is quite a bit of damage to the pets, but if you look at the damage to the targets, I am still doing almost twice as much damage to the targets as the enemy team. So still really solid spread pressure here. You'll see apparitions are very high as well. We're taking double damnation, or sorry, the malediction, double reduced cooldown of damnation. That's going to help us keep our dots up. I kind of like that we're not taking any of these idols because I feel like all of these talents are pretty lackluster. So to make use of all these other ones is going to be pretty useful as well. And then take a look at the priest tree, because I've been playing a lot of this Angel's Mercy into double Death Repair talents just for more defense, but when you think of Wizk, you think of damage, and he's not going to really sacrifice any damage in these builds. This is going to be a very aggressive style of gameplay. You're going to basically look to dot everyone, keep them dotted at all times, and that's going to give your Psychic Link a lot more value, just making sure 3 targets are dotted when you're doing those Mind Spikes and Mind Blast. So yeah, these talents seemed to be at first glance very powerful for just AoE overall damage. Maybe a tiny bit less single target burst, but what you lose in that you make up for in damage as well, so, or AoE damage. And just looking at the games, like, of course I'm not going to out damage an Aflock, but I'm still getting pretty close. The one thing I had issues with was into teams that were really like oppressing me with dispels, and I don't know, I just felt like when I was facing this double shaman team, I wanted to change my specs, so we'll look at that later. But let's check out the gameplay and kind of how this plays out of that match that we were just looking at with the crazy damage, because I think that will help us determine you know, why this build is working. So let's check out that video here. I've got it loaded up, and we are gonna check out some Shadow Priest gameplay here. So as you can see, I'm looking very enthused. I'm sitting behind the pillar, and I'm just looking to see, okay, you know, how am I going to dot all these jabronis? I'm going to Shadow Crash all the pets with the Warlock. I'm going to shoot a Damnation onto the Shaman, as well as use my VT proc if I can. I probably should have used it there on the Warlock. I think I maybe accidentally solo dotted the Shaman. So right now, I've got no dots out on most of the targets. I have the Shaman dotted, but I don't have the Lock or the Druid dotted, so my DPS is already kind of struggling. I get CC'd on my Dark Ascension, which is, again, kind of nice that you don't have to worry about using those Shadow Word Deaths to Mindbender and keep your DPS up that way. You're just looking to use your Insanity and kind of use your procs off cooldown. So now we get the Spear. I'm going to get everybody dotted, and this is where the Psychic Link is going to start paying dividends. They're all 3 dotted, and I'm getting a lot of procs. Not really sure why I shot out a Shadow Word Death proc without the Shadow Word Death without the proc. That was kind of noob, but here I'm just going to Mind Blast and Mind Spike as much as I can while trying to keep my dots up. So all 3 targets still dotted. Going to continue to Purge, Mind Blast, and Mind Spike. CC the Druid here. Use a Root on the Warlock. Just keep those dots up, man. A Shadow Crash also is going to be very effective. One reason why we really like Shadow Crash into Demo Locks in particular is because they're going to dot all of their pets, and those pets are going to end up giving you Insanity. You're going to get more Apparition procs. Look at my Spooky Ghost Men. They're all flying around. If you take a look at the talents here, Your Shadow Word Pain damage has a 5% chance to create shadowy apparitions. So the more the more pains you have out on those pets, the more insanity you generate, the more Mind Blast procs you get, and the more apparitions. So we're just going to kind of bully the lock into letting his pets give us more damage. So Shadow Priest feeling very strong into Demo if you can take advantage of all these spells. So almost going for the kill here, getting a Shadow Word Death, double death, doesn't die unfortunately. All the dots get dispelled. I probably could have finished the Shaman somehow, but I get spam feared and there's a grounding totem, so we're just going to have to keep that burst coming and ultimately get this Druid dotted again as well to get some more value out of the Psychic Link. So here's a double fear. We're going to shoot a Shadow Crash probably soon to get everyone else dotted up again. This will get some of the pets as well. You're going to see those Shadow Word Pains are going to help us generate those apparitions and the procs. I'm going to dip behind the pillar because I'm getting Nemo blasted right now. My Shaman gets feared. I don't have MD, so I'm just going to hide. Keep the dots up. Damnation. This is why the 30-second Damnation talent is so nice too, because you don't have to worry about getting interrupted. You can just kind of pop your burst and keep your dots up. So we get the Void Volley coming in. Wizk does like Void Volley as well. It's just really strong when you're actually able to stand on top of people, but maybe against like more caster-oriented teams. I know there's an Enhanced Shaman here, but they're almost playing like a caster where it's kind of hard to stack on them. Maybe we could have used Catharsis more and that would have done more DPS. I've been generally playing Catharsis, but getting some good Void Volley RNG can make or break the game. And especially on a 1 minute cooldown, it's just adding a lot of burst to your toolkit. So let's keep up the dots here. Trying to look at our next best option. We have Shadow Crash in 5 seconds. They're not interrupting me. Oh, now I get kicked. Kind of scary. Always yell when you're interrupted. Let them know you can't, let your healer know you can't use a defensive cooldown. We'll get those dots back up. Shoot a Shadow Crash, get all the pets active, and keep our dots on the Druid. Now it's time to use those Mind Spike procs because you're going to get a lot of Psychic Link dam from that. So you can see they're kind of like slowly like getting chunked out. I mean, no one's at 20%, but they're all slowly kind of like getting withered away. And the further you get into dampening, the more this is actually going to matter. And it's also going to give us targets to swap to. So we don't really feel like we're limited to just killing the Shaman, even though we've already gotten all those cooldowns. The lock is actually pretty low on cooldowns as well. So we get the wall from the Shaman. Perfect time to swap to the lock. As you can see, Shadow Crash coming in hot, dotting all those pets, keeping the Insanity rolling, the Apparitions rolling, and the procs will be rolling too. So keeping all the, I mean, it sucks that you guys can't see the damage right now to kind of see it build up over time. I accidentally had it disabled, so we're just keeping our dots up. Devouring Plague, use that Insanity. Purge a lot against Resto Druids. You'll get Insanity from purging. As you keep your dots up, you're just going to keep getting procs, so you shouldn't really have to worry about hard casting Mind Blast too much, although that is the most optimal form of DPS. However, when they have interrupts up, I'm going to steer away from hard casting Mind Blast, especially at this HP. Dotting the pet behind the pillar, always a good idea. Lining during the Tyrant, that's fine. We're going to kill the pet here, resummons it, and we can push out and start popping here. So we're going to give my Warrior Power Infusion. I'm going to go in, pop a Dark Ascension, get some Devouring Plagues rolling. By Void Volley, did not really get close to anyone here. I think I just wasn't used to still playing this talent, and ultimately you want to be stacked up on the people when you Void Volley, so that's something I have to work on if I'm going to continue to play this talent in the future. But otherwise, these Shadow Word Death procs doing a bit of damage. The Mind Spike is definitely adding some nice juice with the Psychic Link to the Warlock, as well as running down the Spirit Wolves. Man, the Spirit Wolves are taking tons of damn right now. So the dots are falling off the lock. Try to redot him. Get CS'd. Demo does have a 1 minute kick, which is kind of nice, so it doesn't feel as bad when you tank 1 CS. You know, you can kind of cast for the next minute or so afterwards. Looking to get dots back on the Shaman. Damnation, Spear, just completely going nuclear right now. I need to use this Unfurling Darkness proc, but I didn't get it off. So tragic. I get sheared. He has wall, just purging. Dot in the Sham, dot in the Druid. Everyone's in my line. Perfect time to get some burst set up here. So as this wall falls, we're going to look to go completely nuclear. I need to stack up for the Void Volley ideally, so I'm going to come in here, try to get closer. Looks a little sketchy, but here it is, Void Volley, Mindbender, and I use the Shadow Word Death as well. Kind of in that habit of still pressing Death during the Mindbender, but I had a proc, so it doesn't matter. Either way, we did completely nuclear burst there, and just keeping the whole team rotted up so that we're able to swap around, I think, makes it really helpful. Now, your damage definitely won't look like this every match, so let's go to, let's maybe check out a match where we play without these talents, and I can talk about why I liked the other talents instead. Alright, so here's a look at the build that I typically like to play in Shuffle and 3s. So I'm playing, instead of Void Ball, I usually use Catharsis. We've got Inescapable Torment. We've got no Psychic Link, which means less spread damage. But we do have a bit of Talbadar's Stratagem or Insidious Ire. We've got 1 point in the Malediction and 2 points in Mind Devourer. So this build is going to be a lot more single target. We're looking to get big nuclear Mind Blast off on the kill target and looking to do juicy setup. So anytime we have a CC, essentially on the healer, we want to have Devouring Plague up on our kill target, which means we either need Damnation or at least 50 Insanity. And then we're going to look to pump out, 1 to 3 Mind Blast during that window. Mind Blast with Dark Ascension is hitting about, 50k, I would say, depending on the cooldowns that they have active. Trying to find the game where maybe we were able to get some big Mind Blast off. So maybe I wasn't playing it this match. We were playing, yeah, you can see when I'm not playing Talbadars, I'm hitting like really low Mind Blast. And then when I play the Insidious Ire, we get, those 55k to 58ks is generally what I see on my screen. And you can pretty much do those back to back. When you prop Dark Ascension, you get that increased crit from the Ancient Madness. So let's take a look at how this plays out. The reason why I swapped off of this AoE Rot build is because against this team, I felt like we generally only had one kill target, and it was the Ret. And no matter how hard I tried to dot or rot the rest of the team, we ended up just falling short. The Shaman is also spam dispelling my dots, and the Ret is spam dispelling Devouring Plague. So that's actually going to make the Insidious Ire build a little bit difficult here. However, we're going to make good use of it later in this match. So stay tuned for some epic PvP upcoming. Keeping the dots up to the best of my ability, keeping even the Fire Ellie, dotting that is going to increase your damage as well, especially when there's so much downtime like this. Just keep your dots up on whatever you can. Stay in max range, not really getting sheared too much, trying to line these shamans to the best of my ability. So I get some big juicy dots out on the Fire Ellie. He's actually going to dismiss it there, and we're going to look to get some big damage going. I'm out of shear range, so here comes the dots, here comes the PI. I do this thing where I try to silence the Resto Shaman, but because he's out of range, it actually silences my target, which is really tilting. It makes me look like a bad player, and I really don't know why that is in the game. So I'm just staying max range, and now that I've got some Insanity, I'm going to dump out some Mind Blast into Vanguards here. He gets topped off. There's 3 interrupts up. I need to get out of this situation, so immediately I'm going to try to get off this sketchy area and get to the pillar, because if I'm at the pillar, I'm going to be able to line of sight the both of the wind shears. So in the meantime, I will drop a Psy Fiend if I can. Hopefully I don't die. Double Fear, and then I'll drop the Psy Fiend, shield the Fiend. Big damage. Oh, I actually shielded myself. That sucks. They killed the Psy Fiend in time. Keeping those dots up. Here comes the Mind Blast. JK, kill the grounding. This is why I didn't really like playing the other build. It was just like, I could try to rot them, but he's just spam dispelling, and I didn't have enough value out of Psychic Link because all 3 targets were not dotted enough, and I'm just getting kind of bullied by these 2 shamans. So again, he spam dispels my dots. I'm going to shoot out some Mind Blast, just getting a wind sheared. Rooted behind the pillar, very tragic. Ellie Shaman is low-key really strong. They do so much damage, they're just a little squishy. So here we go, I've got my cooldowns up, Dark Ascension, Devouring Plague. I'm going to silence the Shaman and shoot out 1 Mind Blast, 2 Mind Blast, and then boom, he just dies. That was like a 55k into a 34k, and he didn't even bubble because they're used to not dying during these little windows. You could make the argument that if I had a Shadow or Death proc, I would have hit that hard as well, but you never know if you're going to have the procs for your goes. I feel like the Talbadars is just like a little bit more consistent to the point where you can set it up when it's necessary. So we can just take a look again at the burst here. I'm going to keep my dots up, use my Insanity, Mindbender, and then here's 1 Mind Blast, 2 Mind Blast, and then a Shadow or Death would have been the next global, and we would have killed him there. So pretty solid damage setup, I would say. The only thing we maybe could have done differently was also sneak in Mind Games. However, they did have interrupts. I just kind of had the fast cast Mind Blast into the instant, and were able to global him. I don't really know what else they could have done besides bubble there. It was just kind of a quick little 1-2, and if you could sneak those combos off, it's definitely going to be helpful in the future. You can see my overall damage is way less. I probably would have done an extra like 500,000 with the other talents. It just wouldn't have really landed us a kill per se, whereas I feel like these talents here made us land the kill. But yeah, guys, I just want to give a little update on that. If you are new to the YouTube channel, please check out the stream, follow. I am trying to stream almost nightly. You can see I've got VODs from 2 days ago, 3 days ago, 4 days ago, 5 days ago. I've been streaming every night. I've been out here grinding, trying to figure out what are the best talents, what are the best comps. We'll have a comp video coming out soon. And yeah, guys, stay tuned for some more gameplay. I want to keep pushing my solo shuffle rating as well, so maybe we'll try to see how long those queues are at the moment. But Until then, stay tuned for the next video upcoming on the best Shadow Priest comps. I will see you guys live around 11 Eastern every night. Peace.